你在放 PPT 吗？
对，
你那边是
我放
全屏
PPT。
模式吗？
是啊，
哎，我发现你全屏的时候，我这儿会有点问题。
你直播会有问题是吗？
对，它那个画面会就是出现那个就是叫什么，就会有空白的时候，我得
啊，
把它切换到不是全屏的状态。你有没有可能就是共享的时候就不是全屏共享啊？
现在这样好一些吗？
嗯，哦，不是，我想想我应该怎么讲，就是你那个播放的时候，它播放出来是完整的画面，就是它可能没有完全铺满你的那个电脑桌面，是那个意思。那算了，你不用
现
管我这儿了，你就将就你的方式吧，我来调我这儿。
能听见啊。好，谁可以看一下？
传译员已经来了吗？哦，议员已经来吧，让他们进来吧，先给他们设置一下。
让议员进来吧。
需要翻墙吗？我可以去看一下。
宗奇，你跟我发语音说了啥？我还没听，急吗？
没有，就是我的那个背景实在是搞不上去。没事，我打算就靠个白墙好了，我打算就不搞那个背景。
那个今天志愿者工作文档你们都看了吗？我再快速的过一下。子玉
好啊，
这
你
边就是，子玉这边就是前半程在负责 YouTube 直播，然后分组开始的时候你那个 YouTube 直播就结束了，然后子玉你是进入第二个小组，最重要的是你要在第二个小组录制，然后记笔记，就是一定要录制，要不然我们最后什么都没有了，因为这个是闭门讨论，也没有直播可以留下来。嗯，然后呢，韵林你是分组的时候进入第一组，然后你在第一组录制，韵林在吗？
嗯，在。
韵林你是在第一组录制和记笔记，然后思博是在第三组录制和记笔记。
好的。
你们现在都是联席主持人了吧？确认一下。
嗯，是。
然后还有那个分组的话，分组的话刚才试了，只有 Nick 一个人可以弄，可能就 Nick 你就先把嘉宾弄组里面，然后观众的话我会让他们就是把自己的名字前面写上123，然后根据这个来弄，但可能这个要稍微花一点时间，就是 Nick 你可能要在主会场多留一会儿，然后你同时把那个允许参会者自由选择组那个功能打开，他也可以自己进。
对，就让他们自己进呗。
对，就让他们自己进，就是你多留一会儿，万一有谁不会弄，你帮着弄一下就行。
嗯。
然后 二宝是一直在直播，然后二宝是在组1进行直播，别的也没有什么问题了。然后一会儿可能会有别人进来，高俊，然后梁石这边的同事，就是我刚才给子玉的那个名单，那个名单里面的人进来以后，你都设成主持人，然后你可以在那个石墨上就是勾一下，现在已经有的你就勾掉就行。
我刚卡了一下，是说我吗？
谁那边的杂音啊？刚才是谁那边的声音啊？
哦，可能是我这边的，我在看那个中国网的账号，不好意思。
那我们就准备就绪就开始了哈。最重要的，你们千万别忘了，你们3个人负责3个组的录制哈。
好的，没有问题。
慧宇还有4分钟要试一下翻译吗？
哎 ，Fiona 没进来。哦 ，Fiona， 我让她进来了，准入了。简导进来了。子玉，你加一下。
我用手机和那个都登录了一下。因为我原来出现过这样的情况，就是说，现在听我有重声吗？没有哈。
刚刚有。
没有。
啊，但现在没有了。好，因为以前出现过这样的情况，就是我电脑突然死机，然后就得折腾3、4分钟才上来，所以我先2个都打开。
好，那子玉你让所有人进来吧。
慧宇，你能
显示可以。韵林怎么了？
没有问题。
刚才不是你叫我？我去英语频道听一下全哥和 Fiona 你们。
Hello，
我在英语频道。
能听到吗
？OK， 没问题。
清楚吗？这个声音有没有杂音什么的？
清楚。
好了。
主持人可能需要提醒国外的嘉宾，是有这个英语频道的。应该开国际会议，现在目前大家都英语比较多嘛，好像说有翻译的，大家可能不听。我说话有回音吗？可以。
有一点点。
有一点点是吧？
现在要设置把大家都准入吗？
慧宇，你能看一下我给你发的微信吗？
百度那边我开始推流了啊，大家
好，
注意，还有1分钟倒计时。
中旗可以的。
那我把其他观众都放进来喽。
好。
我今天晚上先不登，明天我登啊，明天白天登。我这2天倒时间，因为要过小年了，我怕我作息不正常回去。我今天晚上先不登，明天我登啊，明天白天登。我这2天倒时间，因为要过小年了，我怕我作息不正常回去。
大家好，在会议正式开始之前，提醒一下大家。
Hi everyone. Before we begin, we want to remind you that please change your name to your own name in order for us to invite you to the breakout room. Thank you.
我不知道 Francesca 有没有来。高俊开始吧。
大家好，很
Good
高
morning,
兴
good afternoon, good evening to friends from different time zones. I'm very glad to see so many people here and welcome to the UN Food System Summit Dialogue. The COVID-19 pandemic is still raging. From all kinds of epidemics related to the food supply chains, we can see the close connection between food production, consumption, and our nature, economy, and society. We are in the middle of a crisis, but this can also prove to be an opportunity for us to rebuild our food systems. In 2020, the UN launched the Decade of Action to deliver the SDGs, and 2021 will be of vital importance. The UN and FAO has declared 2021 as the International Year of Fruit and Vegetables. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General, said that food systems are one of the main reasons for the problems facing our planet. And he will convene the first UN Food System Summit this September or October in order to find and crowdsource game-changing solutions for a shift to sustainable food production and consumption. At that time, leaders will make higher level commitments for bold actions. And this summit might be as well the first time that world leaders talk about how we produce and consume our food. President Xi Jinping of China said at the session 1 of the 15th G20 Leaders Summit that we take the food security challenge seriously and support the UN in holding this summit. And the dialogue will be an important part of the summit. And we hope to engage everyone related to food systems. And we hope to explore solutions to sustainable food systems. As the sponsor of the dialogue, China Biodiversity Conservation Green Development Foundation is dedicated to this shift, and Good Food Fund will hold a series of dialogues to connect stakeholders and the public. We will explore China's best practice to shift our food systems and promote and expand our best practices. First of all, to find more about the summit, we have invited various members of the work for an introduction.
请大家谅解。同时，大家也可以
At the same time, you can change your channel to listen to Chinese or English.
So first, to learn more about the UN Food Systems Summit, we are very honored to have with us Dr. Martin Frick, Deputy to the Special Envoy for the Summit, to give us a brief introduction. Welcome, Mr. Frick.
Thank you very much indeed, and it's a particular pleasure because this is our first time we are engaging in a large way with China. And I'm very happy to say that in our action tracks, actually the Chinese government is represented in every 5 action tracks. And I'm also happy to see my friend and colleague Gunhild, who is our lead of action track 2, and she will go more into the substance. But I think you made wonderful points in the introduction, because this is a summit that is dedicated to the Sustainable Development Goals. And unlike other summits, we are not only focusing on SDG 2, on zero hunger, but we are looking particularly into the health impacts of food and nutrition, in the environmental impacts. And basically, we are trying to make a case for the central importance of food systems for basically all of the reality around us. Eradication of poverty, lifting people out of food insecurity, but also ensuring that we are staying within planetary boundaries. So my boss, Dr. Agnes Kalibata, who is the special envoy, always says we need to reach out to at least 5 billion people when we really want to change the food systems. And I'm really enthusiastic about your initiative of taking that and engaging in dialogues and working on a national action hub to bring the best ideas and to change our dietary patterns and to really look at the interrelatedness of health, nutrition, the way we produce and we consume food. And I also want to point out that China is a leader in fighting food waste, which indeed is outrageous if you see how much food is being wasted. So what we need is conversations of everyone from global society and in countries. We need to integrate all sectors of society. And it's wonderful to see so many young faces, because all over the world, young people are really driving the change and understanding the issue as it goes forward. You will see that all of the action tracks have also a space online, which is called foodsystems.community, foodsystems.community, where we can continue these discussions. And we are very happy to reach out to you and work with you on all different occasions. And I've just seen also that Francesco Branca from the World Health Organization came online. So you got a world leading expert on health also here in your conversations. And I just hope that we will hear more from you and that all of you consider becoming food systems heroes, which you can do online, and that we have a great discussion, not only today, but also going forward as we are approaching the summit, so we can really make a change for the good. Thank you very much for the occasion, and back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Frick, for reminding us that summits, the food systems is connected to so many aspects of our life, and it's about everyone's engagement. And to boost engagement and connection, the summit established 5 action tracks, as Mr. Frick pointed out, to crowdsource game-changing solutions and facilitate joint action. One of them is Action Track 2, which focuses on shifting to sustainable consumption patterns. It is my pleasure to invite the chair of Action Track 2, Dr. Gunhild Stordalen, who is also the founder and the executive chair of tell us about the challenges, opportunities, and impacts that Action Track 2 is aiming for. Welcome, Mrs. Stordalen.
Thank you so much. I just need to be able to share my screen. Here we go. Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Wan Shang Hong. Good evening, everybody. It's fantastic to be here with all of you today and to be able to contribute to this National Food Systems Summit dialogue here in China, focused on shifting food consumption. And as the chair of this action track towards the UN Food Systems Summit later this year, I'm so happy and proud because this is indeed the first dialogue of its kind in the world. And shifting consumption of food and beverages to become healthy for people and sustainable for our societies and for the planet as a whole is one of the great challenges of our time. Over the last couple of years, we have been literally flooded with science, making it crystal clear that we must fix food if we want to secure a safe, sustainable, healthy and fair future for humanity. And the Eat Lancet report from 2019 that you might have heard about was indeed a real milestone, but other major reports after that have only reinforced its key messages, that changing food production and cutting food waste are not enough. We also need to shift to healthy diets to stand a chance to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreements. So let me share 2 quick slides to illustrate the points. We are now witnessing an escalating health crisis of obesity, diabetes, and other diet-related diseases. And the COVID-19 pandemic is particularly ruthless to people suffering from these diet-related conditions and increasing mortality. So people are dying more of the pandemic, and it's more costly for society. And unless we shift course, this will only get worse. Meanwhile, expansion of unsustainable food production lies at the heart of the accelerating extinction crisis. Whether we are talking about some of our closest relatives, like these orangutans, or millions of other species which we depend on for our long-term survival. The food systems also drives the climate crisis, destruction of life in the ocean, and more. And as the world population continues to grow with another 2 billion mouths or so to feed over the next 20 years, this will only get worse. So dear friends, we have to change course, and it needs to happen fast. And that starts literally with what we eat. So what's the projection for global consumption going forward? According to a brand new study by researchers from the Potsdam Institute in Germany, it's not looking good. The world could be starved, stuffed, and squandered by 2050 unless we take dramatic actions now. The researchers estimate that by 2050, more than 4 billion people could be overweight, 1.5 billion of them obese, with 500 million people continuing to go hungry and being underweight. And this gap between hungry and overfed is likely to worsen, while food waste will increase and pressure on the environment will continue to go up. And the reason for this is partly inequalities in access to food, as well as the nutrition transition, meaning the shift from scarcely processed plant-rich diets towards unbalanced diets where animal protein, sugar, and fat displace healthy food like whole grains, pulses, fresh vegetables, etc. The increasing waste of food and the rising consumption of animal protein and meat mean that the environmental impact of our food system will literally spiral out of control. Whether greenhouse gases, nitrogen pollution, or deforestation, we are pushing the limits of our planet and we are exceeding them. So when you add it all up, business as usual is simply no longer a viable option. Transforming policies and transforming business practice, on the other hand, can unleash an unprecedented progress when it comes to public health around the world and the health of our planet. And not at least, it can also make our societies much more resilient against the threat of pandemics. The Food System Summit is an historic opportunity to kickstart a great food transformation that the world really needs. As Martin said, it's about 5 key and interlinked challenges. The first is about access to safe and nutritious food for all. It's about shifting to sustainable consumption patterns, the one that EAT, my organization, and I am leading on. And the third is on boosting nature positive production. And the fourth is about advancing equitable livelihoods. And the fifth is about building resilience to shocks. And our tasks as the action tracks are clear. It's to generate an exciting menu of game-changing solutions propositions and to build a global and growing movement for change. And I would say that we are off to a pretty good start, but we need all the help we can get, and that includes not at least from China. And here is our vision for Action Track 2. By the time of the summit later this fall, significant momentum is underway to shift food consumption. First, we have an exciting menu of game-changing solutions for shifting consumption to healthy and sustainable patterns on the table. Second, we have a critical mass of stakeholders, so governments, local governments, businesses from food producers to food retail, from finance to technology, and a range of other actors that are ready to announce significant commitments to take action in line with such solutions. And the third is a global movement of people that are making changes in their daily food choices and are demanding action by governments and business to enable and accelerate healthy and sustainable food consumption, making it affordable, accessible, and desirable. And we need the decade of the 2020s to become the decade when the great food system transformation really got underway. And this is what we want to make a contribution towards with our work. So the changes we need to see are includes the following. First, to enable, empower, and motivate consumers everywhere to choose healthy and sustainable food, especially fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grain, legumes, and nuts, and particularly for vulnerable and poor population groups, ensuring sufficient quantities of healthy protein sources, including dairy, eggs, seafoods, and meats. And at a global level, especially with respect to more affluent population groups and nations, curbing excessive consumption or overconsumption of animal-sourced food, in particularly red meats. Reducing consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages and unhealthy processed food is another one. Foods that are high in calorie content, unhealthy fats, free sugars, and artificial sweeteners and additives. halving food waste from food service, retail, and household in order to meet the globally agreed SDG 12.3 target, and also shifting to more circular economies where food and packaging waste becomes a thing of the past. And then finally, improving food safety for consumers, including tackling the growing problem of antimicrobial resistance. We have decided to zoom in on 3 areas in which we want to generate our solutions menu. The first is about transforming food environments with all the food offerings that we encounter in our daily lives, such as in and around schools, for example. The second is about food demand, or if you will, the product experience of consumers and the variety of things that influence our daily choices. And it's important to say that this is not so much about limiting choice as it's about expanding choice. Because we believe that the food future we need should provide greater variety, not less. And the third is about reducing food waste and really generate solutions that can help us transitioning to a more circular food economy. This is just an illustration of what we are talking about. Game-changing solutions that can be advanced by different stakeholders, governments, industry, the financial sector, civil society, etc., across the 5 action tracks. The specific solutions are only meant as an example here. We are working as we speak to crowdsource and generate the initial menu of solutions. We are sourcing these ideas and proposals as widely as we can. We are, of course, heavily counting on the Food Systems Summit dialogues in countries around the world, such as this one today in China, to generate valuable inputs. But we are also reaching out to interested publics all across the globe. For example, tomorrow, Action Track 2 will have the second open public forum for collecting ideas and proposals from people around the world. And we are also, of course, drawing on the evidence base of initiatives, policies, reports, business solutions that are actually working. And we will tap into all the relevant levers for driving change, such as finance, innovation, and gender equality, and laws and human rights. Finally, I really think that China can play a world-leading role in the great food transformation that is required over the coming 10 years. And that includes leading on the shift to sustainable and healthy consumption patterns. You have, first of all, a great and diverse food culture to build on. And you can deliver health and well-being to 1/5 of the world's population. And by doing so, contributing to and also pointing the way to safe, sustainable, and healthy food future for all of humanity. And Chinese solutions and innovations can drive change everywhere. We've seen that. And this is why I'm so inspired by the efforts that the Good Food Fund in China to launch now the world's first country action hub for food systems transformation, mobilizing people across the country to contribute their ideas. So if the Good Food Fund is able to get this going over the coming weeks, you will also be able to make a uniquely powerful contribution to the UN Food Systems Summit as a true people's summit. So dear friends, let's all go to work. Thank you so much for the attention and looking forward to hearing the outcomes of this important dialogue. Thank you and over.
Thank you, Ms. Dalen. It is really important that everyone could seize the opportunity of this dialogue and the summit to join the process of promoting great transitions in food systems. This is what today's dialogue and those in the following months are for. And I just learned from my colleague that there are now about 1,000 audience watching the YouTube live stream. which is quite inspiring. Yeah, and next we will move on to the speaker from UN Anchor Agency for Action Track 2, the World Health Organization. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Francesco Branca, the Director of the Department of Nutrition for Health and Development at the World Health Organization, to share with us the efforts of WHO in food systems. Over to you, Mr. Branca.
Thank you, dear colleagues, friends. Good afternoon, good evening. Nin hao. Thank you very much for the welcome, and thank you, Gunhild, for the overview of Action Track 2 and the very important work we aim to implement together. I'd like to commend China for taking the initiative and for the launch of the Good Food Fund, the Action Hub for Action Track 2. This demonstrates the leadership as well as provide inspiration for other member states. I hope that this is the first of many activities from China as we continue to define and implement the game-changing solutions to shift to healthy and sustainable consumption patterns. Food systems and health are very closely linked. Unhealthy diet have become a major source of poor health and environmental degradation around the world, with big disparities between rich and poor. The COVID-19 pandemic has been a vivid demonstration of this. It has uncovered the realities and inequities of weak, underfunded, and broken health and food systems, and how closely those systems are linked, as well as how the pandemic has affected people's nutrition, health, livelihoods, food productions, economies, and development. It has also presented us with an opportunity to assess what has not been working. And we need to learn from these lessons to build back better, more resilient health systems and food systems. The Food Systems Summit is an opportunity to go in the direction of One Health, where people's health, animal health, and environment has to be improved together. According to the WHO data, 89% of deaths in China are linked to non-communicable diseases, which means around 9 million deaths every year. While China has done commendable progress in decreasing undernourishment throughout its population, the rates of diabetes and obesity are on the rise. 1 in 10 men suffers from diabetes, which is approximately 71 million adult men. And over 1 in 3 Chinese adults are reported to be overweight. The average daily sodium consumption of men is 13 grams, which is more than twice the recommended limit of 5 grams per day. So to prevent the collapse of health systems, we have to transform our food systems. Gunhild stressed the need to identify the game-changing solutions through the work streams of Action Track 2. And we're very pleased to have this discussion with you today. But also I'd like to share some of WHO's thoughts. WHO calls the attention to 5 actions that we like to think are game changers. They have been successfully used in many countries and now need to be scaled up. If the world applies them, then we'll see a major transformation. They can strengthen food systems to deliver improved health outcomes of people and bolster health system as a whole, including many other positive multipliers on effects on society, the economy, and our planet. And these are five actions. Number 1, reformulating manufactured food. Number 2, fiscal policies. Number 3, regulating marketing of foods and non-alcoholic beverages to children. Number 4, nutrition labeling of food products. And number 5, public procurements of foods. And just let me highlight some of those. You know, the food reformulation, food manufacturers' responsibility with guidance and nudges from governments and consumers. Food manufacturers need to reformulate products and reduce the content of salt and sugars and to eliminate trans fat without increasing saturated fat. It has been done in many countries successfully. Fiscal policies such as the subsidies for production of foods that contribute to a healthy diet, fruit and vegetables, for example, but also taxation of foods and drinks that we want to discourage. Public settings such as schools, childcare centers, nursing homes, hospitals, and correctional facilities, and all other canteens in public institutions can play a key role in providing people with nutrition and safe food and water and help preventing the million deaths currently caused by unhealthy diet. WHO has recently launched an action framework for developing and implementing public food procurement, and you'll hear from my colleague Kaya Engesven shortly. We're glad to bring this guidance and evidence informed support to our role as the UN Anchor Agency for Action Track 2. And one thing we will also contribute is a narrative which will explain the multiple connection between food system and health, not just unhealthy diet, but unsafe food, food insecurity, environmental impact, the health of food workers, and antimicrobial resistance, many ways in which food system can affect health. So I'm really encouraged by your demonstration of interest and enthusiasm, and China definitely has a major opportunity to be a champion member states as an example and an example to others to shift the food system to be more sustainable and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Branca, for re-emphasizing the links between the pandemic, food systems, and everyone's life, and also pointed out that there are many things that China can do and Chinese people can do. So, 接下来作为
And now, as the sponsor of the summit dialogue, the Good Food Fund has done a lot in transforming the food systems. And now, let's welcome the Secretary General of China Biodiversity Conservation Green Development Foundation, Mr. Zhou Jingfeng.
Can you hear
welcome.
me? Thanks to our distinguished speakers. We will make sure all millions of Chinese will listen to, review your speeches, and we will make sure millions of Chinese will act based on your speech. Thanks. Following, I'm going to speak in Chinese, and my colleague will help with the language. 非常感谢今天晚上莅临
Thank you very much for attending the dialogue. Their speeches are highly relevant. We hope that our platform and our colleagues can introduce their speeches to the wider public. In their speeches, China plays an important role in the transformation of the food system. I want to say that China has a population of 1.4 billion, accounting for less than 1/5 of the world's population. Our food behavior and our dietary behavior will have a huge impact on the future of the food system in the world. We want to be a leader in this field. We have a huge population. We are changing rapidly. Our economy is developing very rapidly. This, as an independent country, China will have a huge impact on climate change, on the sustainable development, biodiversity issue. This is my first point. China is very important in this endeavor. Our action matter. Second, I want to say that as we Good Food Fund, as a social organization, our impact and our action are very important too. In the past, we've been championing saving food, plan for food. We have played an important role, especially in the past year. Chinese president has called on everyone to save food. We have witnessed tremendous change. Legislation and many other endeavors have improved the food wastage situation in China. As a social organization, we have been committed to this endeavor. I want to say that the change made by everyone will play an important role on China's change. Our food structure is changing rapidly. Western countries were once experiencing our transformation from meat efficiency to abundant meat. They have their own health issues, and this is happening in China. So the Good Food Fund is committed to repeating the path of the Western countries. We hope that through our transformation and change, China can enter the development path of sustainable consumption. This will have a huge impact on our health and the health of the world. I thank all of the international experts, especially the UN agencies, and I also want to thank all of the friends and partners and all of those present here today. Thank you for your support and your attention, because all of these are very important for our endeavors to address all of the crises in climate change and in food. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us see that China has its own characteristics and features. China has made a lot of achievements in combating COVID-19. So can China show this kind of strength and achievement in facing and making the transformation of the food systems? Can we face these challenges? I believe that through concerted efforts, we can deliver for the health of us and the health of the earth. We can support the UNFSS. We can conduct research and take actions to change the future of the food systems, to protect the habitats and people's health. Let's work together to build a community with a shared future for mankind and a community of health for all. Thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you to those who promote the Mama Kitchen program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zhou, for your interesting speech, and thank you for reminding us the grave challenges we are faced with. We can play a role in this. I just learned from my colleague that there are almost 25,000 people watching live stream in Baidu platform in China, and more people are watching on YouTube. And now I will welcome Mr. Jian Yi. Mr. Jian Yi is the founder and president of Good Food Fund. Mr. Jian has also been regarded as the lead of work stream of the second action track. He will share with all of us his experience and lessons. And now let's welcome Mr. Jian Yi. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Dr. Freak. Thank you, Dr. Branca, Darlin, and Mr. Joe.
Hosting this, as many of you said, the first ever event of its kind, and we hope these messages will get to our audience, and as well as the Action Hub will continue to serve its purpose for the days to come. So right now I'm gonna switch back to Chinese for our audience. Right now we have about 31,000 people watching online at the moment. 我现在用中文来跟大家来讲一讲我们这次活动的一个背景。
Hi everyone, thank you for attending this dialogue, and I will talk about the China Action Hub. Today, we will officially launch China Action Hub of the UNFFS Action Track 2. Previous speakers have spoken of China's importance and influence as the biggest producer, importer, and consumer of food products. And there are about 315 million people working in food industry in China, almost equivalent to the population of the US. Back to the last slide. The last one, yes. Just now, Dr. Branca said that Chinese cuisine has a very long history, and today the Food System Summit is a People's Summit. China accounts for roughly 1/5 of the world's population, so it's very important for China to take part in this. And I will be in charge of the food environment work stream in the Action Track 2. However, there are some barriers for the Chinese people to participate in a global effort due to language barriers or internet coverages. So how can we make the Chinese people engage in this global effort? And today, in holding this, we will show the Chinese people can do this. Let's look at the context for China's national policies. In the past year, we've seen many influence and contributions, such as China's President Xi Jinping stressed the importance of curbing food waste and promoting biodiversity protection. China aims to peak carbon emissions before 2030 and to achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. And President Xi also said in the G20's Leader Summit that we take the food security challenge seriously and we support the UN in holding the summit. He also proposed to hold the international conference on reducing food waste in due time. So in this context, we will be based on the Action Track 2, which is shifting to sustainable food consumption patterns, and build a Food China Action platform. We invite governmental departments, higher education institutions, scientific institutes, and people working in all kinds of industries and private sector and NGOs to join us to launch a China Action platform. Many speakers have spoken of this action platform, and we are launching the first action platform and the first series of dialogue. hopefully we can call for more organizations and countries and businesses to join the multilateral cooperation and build a community for people. We can see in the flowchart, on the one hand, we will expand our food system heroes, including action makers, change makers, connectors, while at the same time, we will be holding more dialogues as today's one. Through the dialogue, we will spread our efforts to the public, social media, to volunteers. And we are also promoting a policy boot camp for the public to directly participate in proposing solutions and form a good circle. And today, one of the aim of the Food System Summit will be to crowdsource game-changing solutions. In order to participate in this, we propose that different stakeholders can apply to initiate actions and solutions, or you can be an organizer or a participant. Secondly, we have two deadlines, January the 31st, and the next one is February the 5th, to submit your game-changing solutions for shifting food consumption patterns. Once your solution has been shortlisted, you can take part in the action track dialogues. Thirdly, we invite you to cooperate in holding dialogues, including companies, innovation, chefs, farmers, youth, and people from all walks of life. Fourth, we will establish an action platform, such as Chefs Action Hub, where we can hold more events for chefs to shape our diets. Fifth, we plan to hold some policy boot camps. Sixth, this September, the Good Food Summit will be a corner of this summit. And in all of this, youth engagement is very important for all kinds of young people to join us. You can become a member of the youth working group of the second action track of the Food System Summit. We hope that everyone can apply to become a volunteer in this youth working group. Secondly, you can apply to be a food systems hero and initiate dialogues. Thirdly, like the policy boot camp of Cambridge University, you can take part in these platforms. And last but not least, welcome to scan this QR code and follow our public account on WeChat. I want to thank everyone attending this dialogue today. Thank you.
感谢简一先生。
Thank you, Mr. Jian. As the first national action platform, China's action platform will be contributing to the UN's best practices and will forge stronger partnerships in the global level. And we welcome young people to be a part of our youth work group. And now we have Ms. Wang Zhihong, representative of Action Track 2 from China CDC, to share her experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaojun. Can you see the slide? No. Can you see it now? Okay, let's get started. Thank you very much. I am very honored to be here. Very happy to be able to join this dialogue as China's representative. We have a lot of discussion, especially with Mr. Jian Yi. I want to share with you some of the challenges facing China in terms of nutrition status and some intervention measures. In 2014, we convened the Nutrition Conference. We require every country to launch some action at the national level and make some policies. China is doing very well in this regard. From this slide, you can see that we have a very sound legislation and policy system. This shows that China is really focused on the health of people and the people. The Chinese leaders are attach great importance to food waste. We have made this anti-food waste draft. You can see that China is really focusing on this respect. Since 2017, we have made it a national strategy to build a health China. President Xi Jinping said that without health for all, we will not build a moderately prosperous society for all. So we need to improve the health status in China. Vice Premier Sun Chunlan said that we need to change our mentality and to take concrete action. Synergy is a very important word. It stresses that all parties and all stakeholders to take action. Not just independent action, we need to take concerted efforts. Second, we need to implement this action and policies. How can we find the best practices? It is the aim of this dialogue. We want to share Chinese experiences with the world. One policy is the Healthy China 2030 plan. It said that we need to provide guidance for a balanced diet to guide their healthy behavior. This is a top-level structure for our action. It's a blueprint. In Healthy China Action 2019 and 2030, you can see from the slide that to maintain a balanced diet is very important. You rank second in all the proposed. We have a nutrition plan also. It come up with 7 strategies. We need to improve and develop the nutrition industry and to enhance people's knowledge on nutrition. We have come up with different actions for different groups of people. For example, students' nutrition improvement programs, and also elderly nutrition improvement programs. So why do we say nutrition and balanced diets are so important? Because like the WHO said that the cost-effective way to reduce health malnutrition is a balanced diet. Through healthy diet, we can yield the highest returns. Our dietary structure is not reasonable in some respects. For example, overconsumption of meats. For example, pork accounts for 80% of the consumption. Insufficient consumption of fruits and vegetables. Over intake of sodiums and oils. In terms of nutrition, we lack the intake of dietary fiber. So from this, we can evaluate our dietary structure. We find that if 110 is the food score, our adults and elderly people are not improving significantly and is lower than the 55 points. So we need to intervene and take measures to improve this. Also, Chinese people eating outside, the proportion is increasing, and the proportion of energy, the proportion of food for energy is improving. You can see that if people eat outside their home, the kinds of food they eat, especially pork and poultry food, will increase. China is still facing with malnutrition and overnutrition, and some chronic disease prevalences are on the rise. We have experienced a lot of challenges and problems. From the very beginning, we try to feed everyone, and then we try to feed everyone well. But now we want to make sure everybody is eating healthily and happily. So this requires the nutrition industry to develop itself, to shoulder more responsibilities, because it has to make our public happier and healthier. They need to invest in R&D of their products. They need to make this food tasty and nutritious. Balanced dietary action is very important. One of the most important thing is to focus on the priority areas and priority groups of people. So our focus is still on the second level prevention. We've been stressing the transition from curing diseases to preventing diseases. From our practices, we found that the second level prevention is very important. And now we're heading to the primary intervention. We need to prevent the occurrence of diseases and to intervene into people's dietary habits to give them a healthy lifestyle. In the end, I just stressed that in the Healthy China Action, we emphasize that everybody is the first person responsible for their health. So everybody needs to exercise. For the FSS, everybody is also shouldering their own responsibility. We are not only responsible for our health, but also we need to take action to shape the health of our friends, our families, and the world. So in the end, we want to emphasize that we need to take concerted efforts and take science-based measures to yield win-win results. This is our aim, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Wang. Thank you for interesting speech and your information of China's policy. However, it is also young people's responsibility to contribute and promote the shift of food systems. And I myself is a volunteer and in charge of the youth working group of Action Track 2. And now it is time for me to give the floor to another representative
in food systems. as the youth vice chair of Action Track 2. Lana is going to tell us about how the youth could engage in sustainable food consumption. And actually, I see there is a very relevant question in the chat box saying that how to empower Generation Z to change their food choices towards sustainable patterns, like dining experience, value proposition, time saving, etc. Probably Lana could also address that problem a little bit in your speech. Welcome, Lana.
Thank you. And thank you for the introduction and what John has already said about opportunities for youth engagement. I think there's already a great response to that question. I think especially going through schools is a great way to reach young people. I would also add that there are at this moment so many youth-led movements, and connecting with young people on the topics that they care about, such as a livable future and sustainability and climate action, can be a really powerful way to talk about healthy food and diets in a way that will really capture attention of young people, depending on the different topics that youth are looking at. So I think that has, in my experience, found to be a really powerful way. I also want to add that young people play an important role not only in the UN Food Systems Summit, but in the creation of our future food systems. My generation has been powerful in demanding climate action and our right to a healthy, sustainable future. We are those who will be left to live in our future food systems, and we are already making an impact in food today. You have already been incorporated in the UN Food Systems Summit in several ways, including that every action track has a vice chair who is a young person, and there are 5 core action tracks that have been mentioned. Right now we're focusing on shifting to sustainable consumption, action track 2, but there's also ensuring access to safe and nutritious food, boosting nature positive production at scale, advancing equitable livelihoods, and building resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stresses. There's also UN Food Systems Summit regional youth focal point for every world region. And for Asia, that is Erwin Aquino Belen, who is leading for young people who might want to get involved regionally in the summit. There are a number of young people in the Champions Network and also Champions Network Vice Chair for Youth. And there is also a youth focus group that has been for the broader youth UN Food Systems Summit, and the youth working group has already been mentioned for Workstream 1 of Action Track 2, and then a network of youth liaisons. There's also great ways that you can get involved if you're not already in one of these groups. It's not by any means too late to get involved in the summit, as we're really kicking it into high gear this year. You could join the youth focus group for the overall summit, and that's a great way to express your interest in getting involved in the UN Food Systems Summit and staying updated on opportunities for young people. Becoming a food systems hero is something that John already mentioned, and that's a great way to stay updated on the overall summit, how that's progressing, and ways that you can take action as well. So if you haven't already become a food systems hero, that's a great way to also begin your involvement no matter what age you are. And you should definitely also fill out the surveys for the action tracks. That's a great way to have your voice heard, and something that is wrapping up soon. So making sure that you have your voice incorporated in the actions that will be brought forward and then taken by governments and business throughout this summit is one of the best ways at this moment that you can get involved. So I would definitely recommend that first if you have not already become involved. And I'm hoping we can get the links out for these different opportunities, no matter where you're watching. And then you can also, of course, join dialogues like this one. This is a great way to get started, and I really applaud you for joining us here today. You can host your own dialogue if you want to touch on a specific topic or a specific group of people. So those are 2 different ways that you can also, you can explore other upcoming dialogues on the UN Food Systems Summit page. And you could also organize your own if that's something you're interested in. And then if you're particularly interested in the topic of shift to sustainable consumption as a young person, feel free to contact me as well, as I'll be finalizing our Action Track 2 youth engagement plan with our Action Track 2 team, and I'm happy to have anyone in the loop for young people on how the opportunities will work out there. Remember, just because you're young does not mean that you do not have expertise, valuable perspectives, or a voice that should be heard. UN Spaces need young people like us because we are able to see from outside what has not been working in repeated government talks, and with the rest of our lives ahead of us, have a unique ability to think long term about the consequences of the actions that are currently being taken or that are lacking today. Bringing us to decision-making structures is powerful, especially for many of us who are not yet tied to official roles or organizations. We can keep the politics out, tell it like it is, and focus on the action at hand. This is what is needed in both climate action and food system spaces. So please never doubt the value and power of your voice, because it's precisely what the world needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana, for showing us how many things that youth could and should do. And thank all the speakers for your great efforts for today and for the summit. Now I've seen quite a few questions in the chat box. Due to time limit, I will only take one. The very first question is, to shift to sustainable food systems, agriculture systems also need reforms. Will it bring losses to farmers or corporates, and how to address that? I see Lena, the technical officer of WHO, already responds to that in the chat. Lena, would you mind directly addressing that question now?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, and empowerment often means de-empowering others. Same with if we want to really shift and transform food systems, there could be winners and losers, but overall we need to make sure that the food system moves in the right direction. What we need is a multi-sectoral approach, and so if we make like wins in agriculture, that we don't have losses in health. We need to move together, and that's why it's important that agricultural decision makers and health decision makers, trade, employment, they all sit around the table together and assess the impact of the decisions. What is important is that there is policy coherence. And many studies already show that in different countries, if decisions would be made and consumers would consume according to national dietary guidelines, that overall the wins would be much larger than the losses in some sectors. Over.
Thank you, Lena. I highly encourage all the attendees to continue this kind of conversation. These are really important, and the solutions might not be easy, but we need conversations. And before moving to the next session, that is the panel discussion, could I ask everyone who feel comfortable to open their camera, and let's take a group photo virtually. And thank everyone for being here. 慧宇，你好了，说一下。
And Huiyu will tell us when we will take the screenshot as a virtual photo.
好的，好了。
Okay, it's done. Thank you, everyone.
Now I will hand it over to my colleague Hui Yu for the next session panel discussions.
谢谢高俊，也非常感谢
Thank
前
you,
面
Gao Jun. Thank you for all the speakers for their efforts. I am Ouyang Huiyu, Food Policy Officer of the Good Food Fund. I'm very excited because we are now heading to the panel discussion. The UNFSS dialogue is an important way for everyone to directly engage in the summit. The China Action Hub will launch a series of dialogues focused on the shift to sustainable consumption patterns and talk about some Chinese cases so that many stakeholders can explore the best practices and we put them to good use. For example, today's dialogue will focus on school feeding program. School feeding program for schools in terms of public procurement and new supply. It is important for everyone because everybody has to eat at canteens. Now I would like to give the floor to the technical officer for multi-sectoral action in food system in the Department of Nutrition and Food Safety of World Health Organization to talk a little bit about the World Health Organization action framework for developing and implementing public food procurement and service policy for a healthy diet. Now the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for that introduction and especially for making space so late this evening for us to present this new resource from WHO, the Action Framework for Developing and Implementing Public Food Procurement and Service Policies for a Healthy Diet. This resource was launched last month and like has been mentioned on the chat, the full launch event is available online, recorded in all 6 UN languages, including Chinese, so you may access it. Now, this action framework, it's a tool for countries that want to make their public food procurement and service healthier. And what does this mean? Well, first of all, it means that governments should not spend money on unhealthy food that will lead to death and disease. Secondly, even where governments themselves do not purchase the food or it's contracted out, they can set rules for what is allowed to be served or sold in a public setting under their jurisdiction. So this action framework guides countries in this process, and it's organized around a typical policy cycle, giving advice to countries on the steps that they may take when they prepare, develop, implement, monitor, enforce, and evaluate a healthy public food procurement and service policy. So next slide, please. So what do we really mean with the term healthy public food procurement and service policy? Well, healthy refers to the core principles of healthy diets, meaning that the policy seeks to prohibit or limit unhealthy food high in sugars, fats, and salt, while encouraging healthy foods and safe drinking water. With the term public, we imply that the food is purchased with government funds or served or sold in a public setting. And by food, we refer to any type of foods, beverages, ingredients, meals, or snacks that may be covered by the policy. And by procurement and service, it could refer to any part of the process, ranging from purchase and subsidies to provision, distribution, service, or sale of food. And by policy, we refer to any national document used for this purpose in a country, whether it's mandatory or voluntary. Next slide, please. A key objective of the action framework is to guide countries in establishing so-called nutrition criteria, which will define the food that will be encouraged, limited, or prohibited in public food procurement and service. And we often talk about 3 types of such criteria. First, the nutrient-based criteria, which are based on nutrient content in a specific food category. For example, a maximum permissible amount of sodium per serving size. And useful resources to develop such criteria include the WHO regional nutrient profile models, which have been developed in all the 6 WHO regions, as well as the WHO Healthy Diet Fact Sheet that was also mentioned on the chat earlier. And I've included some of these resources on the right-hand side of this slide, and you can click on them to access them. And one of them is, for example, the WHO nutrient profile model for the Western Pacific region. The second type of criteria are the food-based criteria, and they are based on defined food categories. For example, a prohibition on foods, typically high in sodium, or an obligation to include whole grains in all staple options that are being served. And useful resources include national or regional food-based dietary guidelines or the WHO 5 Keys to a Healthy Diet. And other nutrition-related criteria can be developed as well that target the preparation or service of food, such as the cooking methods, the portion sizes, or the placement of food, or menu labeling. For example, countries may set a prohibition to place visible salt shakers in the school cafeterias. I hope you will enjoy reading more about these and other country examples in the Action Framework document, and that you will find this resource useful for taking forward the related work in China to make public food procurement and service healthier. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kaya.
Thank you very much, Kaya. Kaya's introduction has given us a very good context because we are now heading to the 3 best practices in Chinese cases. School feeding programs are very closely related to Kaya's introduction. Now, please allow me to give the floor to Mr. Zhao Chen, Executive Director of Child Development Center of China Development Research Foundation. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you see my screens?
Can
you see the screen now? No. Let's just get started. So I will just get started. If you have any questions, please ask me. We have a school nutrition improvement initiative. It is a program by the National Student Nutrition Office of the Ministry of Education. We are a think tank fund focused on improving student nutrition and related policy and practices. Our program is focusing on mental health and nutrition of children between under 18 years old. We want to take measures and conventions to improve their health. Our program started in 2015. Before that, we have some pilot programs in Du'an County in Guangxi and in one county in Hubei provinces to compare the results of our research. If we can provide enough nutrition for students in school, this will have a very boosting effect for their growth. So this report has been sent to the State Council. The State Council attaches great importance to this report. And we've been exploring this model. So we can share some data with you. By June 2020, more than 130 rural schools have participated in our program and benefited from our programs, covering 37 million students. From 2011 to 2020, we have invested 210 billion yuan in these programs. We have worked closely with the Ministry of Education. We are thinking about using this field research and collecting data to improve children's health and to evaluate this health and nutrition related program. And we found that there are a lot of setbacks and inadequacies. So we set up this school nutrition improvement initiative platform. We can gather information and data in real time. Teachers have a mobile phone app to feed these nutrition related and food related data to us, and also data about food waste and their physical growth. This data will be fed to the CDC. Also, the data is about the funding and its use, such as the price of the food. Through this data, we can monitor if these funds are used efficiently and whether students have enough nutrition. Now we are monitoring 13 provinces, 70% of all the pilot provinces covering 100 counties. And we have covered 3.8 million students, accounting for 10% of the children benefiting from this program. We collect this data on a daily basis, such as the pictures of people eating and the food wasted. Through GPS and this journal, we can see that whether these pictures are taken in schools. We monitor 3.1 billion yuan every year. Like Chinese President Xi Jinping, who has paid a visit to Zhizhou County in Chongqing last year. We can see that he eats very well. Our program can improve the nutrition of students and enable students can have enough nutrition. The cost is 5 yuan. The central government gave us 4 yuan. Students paid 1 yuan for these programs so that we can ensure they have sufficient nutrition. How can we ensure the procurement price? We feed our data to the database of the Ministry of Agriculture. We can see that this procurement data and the national data, you can see the difference. If it is higher, 20% higher, we will send an alert to them because it's way too high. If it is lower, then it's 30% lower than the market's average, we will send an alert and monitoring their food quality. The procurement prices have been stabilized in all counties and every region. It is consistent with the average level of the price set by the Ministry of Agriculture. Through this monitoring, we hope that we can improve the transparency of the funding and ensure food safety. Many people are doing the same thing. We are monitoring these programs. This has a huge impact on our children, especially in terms of their physical health, their height. School meals can improve children's height by 1 centimeter. It is very obvious. In order to do better, we have some scientific feedback to these schools. And I want to thank you for the nutrition office for giving us the guidance on nutrition. We will give some feedback to schools based on this guidance in terms of their prices and to see whether their per capita nutrition is consistent with the national recommendation. We also give some suggestions to the schools, for example, in terms of their food nutrition intake, so as to improve the school meals quality. How can we make sure this school continue to participate in our programs. We give a subsidy of 100 yuan to these teachers, giving feedbacks to us. We focus on their food nutrition, their food prices, and nutrition levels. And if the school is doing well, the school will get some incentives and rewards, and their kitchens are very good. We will give some rewards to the top 20 counties where our programs are piloted. So our data platform is focusing on the food of the safety of the food. Our program is closely related to children's health and physical health. We need to ensure our programs are safe, the fundings are safe. Second, accuracy. We need to build a database in real time and to give feedbacks to the schools, compare this data, and to give support when necessary so as to do better job in these programs. Third, China's school meals are the third or fourth biggest programs in terms of our coverage. The quality of our school meals are not as good as countries like Japan and America, according to the reports by World Bank, but we are doing very good among developing countries. So we want to do better because it covers 130,000 countries. We hope that every school can do well. We don't want to see a deficiency of funds and things like that. So we are sending reports to the Education Ministry on a yearly basis. This year marks the 10th anniversary of our programs. We want to evaluate our programs this year, and thank you for WHO to join us in these programs. This is pretty much about my introduction and presentation. Thank you. And we're looking forward to your efforts to fight against child poverty and other panel discussion from other industries. For reason of limited times, please forgive me for not being able to give introduction to every expert we've invited. Now we're heading to the second Chinese case. I would like to give the floor to Professor Yang Min.
Professor Yang, welcome.
好的，主持人好，各位屏幕前。
Hi everyone. Friends and guests, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I want to thank our hosts and Good Food Fund for the invitation. It's my honor to be here today. In the past years, me and my dietitians team have done some work in the NutriSmart canteen, and I hope this will prove to be some inspiration for you. And first, I will briefly introduce our NutriSmart canteen and our team. From 2014 to 2015, our logistic group and School of Public Health cooperated and developed the first NutriSmart meal flow line in China. We set a standard meal pool for more than 3,000 meals and combos, and we established a nutrition analysis database accordingly. Our technicians developed a smart dishes system based on the radio frequency identification technology to automatically complete the payment, and students can receive a whole of analysis of the meal's nutrition on their mobile phones, as well as advice and guidelines. In 2018, we also developed a second generation NutriSmart meal flow line with facial recognition and precise weighing technologies. And based on big data, Internet of Things, and AI, we developed a NutriSmart meal management platform, the outline of our NutriSmart canteen. And also in 2018, we established Zhejiang School of Public Health Healthy Living Fund and TLC registered dietitians team. And we also established a nutrition commonplace to offer consulting on weight management and nutrition for university students. And since 2019, we have been expanding our work. We provided consulting and we brought our nutrition commonplace to Hangzhou city government buildings and number 11 middle school in Hangzhou, and promoted food education and self-health management. Last October, our team was invited to give some experience in the national level, and we received positive feedbacks. In summary, we have identified the following tips from our NutriSmart canteen. First, people in high and middle income regions are focusing more on healthy eating habits and lifestyles more than just having the food to eat. They focus on improving nutritional levels, so we should make new policies, set new nutrition criteria accordingly. Secondly, information technology can help realize the visualization precision for individual nutrition intake, help people develop good eating habits and self-health management. It will also benefit precision supply, waste reduction, and generate more efficiency. In particular, our NutriSmart meal flow line has been very contributive of waste reduction, and we have reduced food waste by more than 50%. Third, we have realized that we need professional dietitian teams as a bridge between the supply side, which is the public, and catering businesses. At the same time, we also need collaborative effort to build the NutriSmart canteen. We need administrative support, policies, and funding. They are really fundamental for our work. Also, we need professional teams to work together, including people from management, dietitians, chefs, and we need IT support as well. During the process, difficulties and failures have been inevitable, and so far we are still a long way from our expected goals. However, we have always believed that healthy diets and smart operation will be the trend for the future catering industry. In building a healthy China, me and my dietitians team hope to guide people in developing healthy consumption patterns as well as sustainable nutrition development. We hope we can truly play our role as dietitians. Thank you. That will be all of it.
Thank you, Professor Yang Min.
The panel discussion for this topic gathers experts and representatives from food innovation, animal welfare construction. I want to emphasize once again that the core of the dialogue is to represent different voices and different perspectives to reach consensus and to understand the complexity of the problems and to reach win-win solutions. I want to say that after the third case, we will have 3 parallel panel discussions. You can join any one of the 3 panel discussions that you are interested in, but please make sure that you put a
prefix to your name. If you are interested in the first panel discussion, please put 1. For the 这道 program, for the second case, please put 2 to your name. Now we're heading over to the Keystone Academy to see what is going on here. Now I will give the floor to Mr. Mackenzie. Over to you.
Thank you very much. My name is Malcolm. I'm the head of school at Keystone Academy Dingshe in Beijing, and I'm here with a graduate student, Aurora, who is going to translate for me into Chinese, and 2 other colleagues, Anna and Elsa, our catering managers. Elsa works for Chartwells, our caterers, who will be answering questions later. So I'm going to be very quick, and I'm going to ask Aurora to translate. And I'm going to open by simply telling you from a letter that I wrote to all our parents in April of 2019, when we started having Mondays without meat across the whole school, breakfast, lunch, and supper. Are you there, Aurora?
Mr. Mackenzie, we have simultaneous interpreters.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I wasn't aware of that. Then Aurora can take a break. Thank you. And I will just finish in English. So this is what I wrote to our parents almost 2 years ago. And I'm quoting, "In the Keystone mission, we make reference to our environment twice. We say that one of the skills that our students will learn here is to be stewards of the environment." And in another paragraph describing our graduates, and Aurora, you've just seen, is one of our graduates, we say that they will possess the quality of ecological fluency. And we make this claim in the context of saying that we want our graduates to help develop and improve the communities in which they live. Now, I said to our parents, it's easy to talk about this. Many, many schools around the world say that environmental awareness is an important part of what they offer their students. Some schools do it very well. Some other schools just talk. Here at Keystone, we are just beginning to explore what this aspect of our mission might mean to our community. So we are planning, and this was 2 years ago now, we are planning to have lunches every week when there is no meat. And we extended that to breakfast and supper. Some of our grade 10 students gave a presentation to the whole secondary division, highlighting the environmental impact of the animal agricultural industry. Although it's hard to be precise about the contribution of this industry to greenhouse gas emissions, because different research ranges between an upper limit of 50% and a lower limit of 20%, the contribution is nevertheless significant. And we can all do something about this by reducing our consumption of meat. When those students made their presentation, they claimed, this was coming from students, that it's perfectly possible to eat delicious and healthy vegetable meals. And I said to the parents, we shall prove those students right, and we shall start with our first one before the end of this academic year. Although having Mondays without meat is not going to change the world, it will have an impact on our attitudes, and it will make us think from time to time about giving up some things and changing some habits if we want to take our environmental education seriously. So I said to the parents in that letter, we are now going to do what we say we want to do. And on Mondays every week, we'll ensure that our meals across the school contain no meat. Some like to call such days meatless Mondays. I prefer the more positive term, ecological eating. Every Monday, all meals served at the academy will be vegetarian. That's been the case now for 2 years. I asked for the parents for their support in this, and I said, we've worked hard with our caterers, Chartwells, to prepare menus that are nutritious and delicious. And we'll continue to work on the educational aspect of this decision and to explain to our students and our adults what the reasons are for this small sacrifice. I went on to say, I say small sacrifice deliberately. Some will come to see this as the opening up of a new eating experience. Others might feel uneasy, perhaps a little irritated about having to give up something that they like or take for granted. To both and to others who might respond in different ways, I say enter this change in the right spirit. If you find yourselves in new culinary territory, that will be liberating. If you reflect on the thought that to give up a luxury like this to become a better steward of the environment, that realization too will be liberating. We should never underestimate the power of small actions to change, to affect change, especially when the meaning and the symbolism of these actions is imprinted on young hearts. In other words, our students, some of whom are aged 5. So just to conclude very quickly, we've been doing this for 2 years. The original impulse came from our own students. There were objections from some parents. There were objections from some students. We persisted. We have an ongoing educational program explaining why we're doing it. Our caterers, chartwells, have been amazing in coming up with fantastic recipes. It was a struggle at first because many cooks are not used to cooking without meat, but it's now been accepted, and it's allowed us to go on and extend that original impulse into other areas of environmental and ecological conservancy in the school. So it's easy to do if you have the will, and I urge other schools to try the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mackenzie. 真的非常敬佩鼎石学校在
Thank you for shaping the food will of the students. I'm very looking forward to eating at your canteens when the new semester begins. The panel discussion for this topic is really about innovation. The guests have very innovative way to transform their behavior, and the moderator for this panel discussion is Zongqi. She is very excellent, and she will discuss with many young representatives and experts to discuss this topic. And now we will heading over to panel discussion. Audience can choose whatever panel discussion they are interested in. Each panel discussion will be moderated by a young representative. They will serve as a facilitator. Now, on Baidu, more than 120 people are watching our live stream. So we are really making this FSS a people's summit, and we are making everybody participate in this summit. Now we're heading over to the panel discussion.